Hello and welcome to my new video, how to draw the Eiffel Tower step by step. In this video I'm going to show you how to draw the Eiffel Tower looking up at it from a slightly crazy angle, so that we need to start this drawing with a diagonal line going across your page. This is an important line because the whole structure of the Eiffel Tower will be built on this line. Next, from this line we need a couple of sweeping curves starting from the top right hand corner, so I just put one in here and then one on the other side. So it needs to look like they're a nice flowing curve and quite almost like a curtain sort of curve. So we've got that, and now we need a line going across, intersecting the diagonal that we started off with. And hopefully it's sort of a shape sort of shooting towards the right. And now on the bottom left we need to find out the curve of the arches at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower. So I'm just going to indicate some of those. I think it should be pretty large because obviously that's the part of the Eiffel Tower that we're closest to in this view of the Eiffel Tower. So I'll draw quite a large curve for that area. Again, it's a symmetrical building, so we need to make sure that everything is really based around this central diagonal line that we drew. And now I'm going to draw some more intersecting lines, which are all at right angles to the diagonal line. I'll clean it up with an eraser just to get rid of some of the sketch lines that we started off with. It's quite good sometimes just to erase parts of lines rather than erase the whole line, because if you erase the whole line in the drawing, then you sort of got to start again, whereas if you erase part of the line of your drawing, then you might find that some of the other parts are a good indication or guide to what to do next. And you can build on the parts of lines that you have. So here we're going to break it down into some smaller shapes now, and it has the sort of thickness to the outside frame going through. And again, just keep checking and rechecking the actual edges of the lines, and I think it's quite good to just be quite fluid at this stage, not trying to get too many details in. So I'm trying to put some of the legs of the Eiffel Tower here, and then it has a sort of wraparound quality to the platforms on the Eiffel Tower, so that first intersecting line is going to be a platform. And now I'm speeding up the drawing quite a bit because there's a lot of repeated things in this. So trying to divide some of the basic shapes. Once you're confident that you got the basic shapes more or less right, then you divide them into smaller rectangles basically. And then those rectangles need to be in the right direction with the lines that you've already drawn. It doesn't matter if everything is exactly right, you just get the feel of it, I think. And then just using an eraser again, so breaking it down into smaller and smaller shapes, but even at this stage not really doing the detail. Well, I think I'll start the detail now, so I'll put a pen work on. So first of all it was drawing with a 4B pencil, and now I'm just using a marker pen, or actually a thinner pen, just to do some of the finer details. Towards the left I'll use a thicker pen, and towards the right here I'll probably use this fine pen. So breaking it down and actually doing a detail in one area, and I'm quite confident, well, I've made my decision, this area has to stay where it is because I'm using pen and I can't change pen. So I've got the guidelines of the pencil, and now I'm just working out how to split them up. So I'm not doing the details too much yet, but I've broken this into the smaller rectangles. Each of these rectangles needs to be broken up with one more line which follows the curve that we had. And then later on within each line I need to do a cross. And that cross will be part of the structure of the Eiffel Tower, which will make it look like a very complicated drawing. Well, it will become a very complicated drawing hopefully later on. So just working down with the pen line, going to the nearer platform, working out how the line goes across. So this quite thin pen here, I can strengthen the line of the pen just by doing one line on top of another. And I think I want this a tonal drawing rather than just a line drawing. So that I don't get too confused, I'm going to block in some of the darker areas that I know are going to be dark now. With a structure that's made out of lines and the lines are dark, it's quite difficult in the drawing to decide which lines should be dark and which lines should be light. So if a line wants to be a light tone or colour, then you need to sort of do the darkness around at either side of it, and then the light line will show up. Whereas if it's a dark colour. If the line is a dark colour, it's more straightforward. You just draw the line with the pen and you get the line of the structure of the Eiffel Tower. So in this drawing, I'm going to do some lines which are black and then some lines that are white. And so clearly the white lines are going to have the darkness either side of them, and that will produce the effect of a white line. So getting into the detail at this stage in this small area, so it's less than a third of the whole of the Eiffel Tower. But now I can really, because I've got the basic structure of this area, I can just work into it again and again and again, cross-hatching just parallel lines, all of 1 degree, cross-hatching some areas, now using a thicker marker pen just to block in some flat, dark, black areas. May as well use a big pen on that. Doesn't really matter too much what sort of pen. Just a larger pen, it's just quicker for those areas, and I'll keep to the fine lines with a smaller pen. So I use several pens on this drawing, I think. So the more I look at the various images that I have of the Eiffel Tower, the more I can see details, and the more that I can be confident that I put the details in, because I'm breaking it down into smaller and smaller sections. So you start, as always with a drawing really, you want to start with the big shapes, and then break it down into smaller shapes, and then smaller shapes, and then details. So in this drawing at this stage, I've got the details that I'm working on right now in this area, but the point of the Eiffel Tower, the top of the Eiffel Tower, is really hardly there, but I've got the guidelines, and then the base of the Eiffel Tower again, I've worked out the structure. I don't think I need to change it too much, but I'll need to do quite a lot of work before I can put any more details in that. So there, I've done one area that seems to be okay now, and then I'll work down towards the left of the picture. So I'm going to break down this area into its various compartments of small rectangles, looking at the quality of the line, if the lines are thick or if they're at an angle, if they're parallel to the original diagonal, which I think these ones are, and then if they're double lines or single lines. So I think most of these are double lines, and then I can use my marker pen just to fill in some of the areas that just need to be black, so that the double lines have now become white lines with black rectangles in between them. And that contrasts quite nicely with the earlier stage where I have the thinner lines. Now next I work on this area here down below, and I need to break this. It's got too many large shapes, so I need to break it into smaller areas now. And sometimes with a drawing like this you can suddenly notice something like a little blob or a rectangle or a triangle, and then you can see that it crops up again and again, almost like a pattern-like structure like it is on this area here. And then you can just follow it through and repeat a shape. Keep referring back to the images that you're working from, but repeat a shape again and again. So along here there's a darkness, or the light catches the structure of the building at this point. So I can repeat that on each one of these lines. Basically I've noticed something and I've noticed that it repeats, so I can just repeat it. And then I've really got to look and see what the next thing is that I can notice and repeat. So there is a darker line across here, so that can just be blocked in all the way across. So it's sort of readable from one side to the other. Something that repeats. So working down towards the arch, there's some details here which, frankly, I just don't want to do all the details in this area. I don't want to make it too complex. So I'm trying to simplify the details that I see, but still keeping it a complex drawing at the same time. So within here there's lots of ironwork and small shapes, but I'm simplifying it into little blocks that I can do with a pen quite quickly. And hopefully they'll give the illusion that there is more detail than there actually is. So just speeding along and repeating that. So it's just basically the same shapes as I was saying before, repeated again and again. Okay, so we're getting somewhere on this drawing now. And I need to make sure that I have some larger shapes towards the base. So I'm going to use just a wider marker pen here just to draw some of these arches and keep the pen quite smooth as I do it, because I don't want a line that's too sort of broken or jarred. So at this point here I need to put some more detail in with a pencil of all the massive lines which are in the lower part of the Eiffel Tower. So I sort of jumped that stage, but if you want to just freeze the video at that stage and try and work out what's going on. But basically I've done far too many lines than I need, but I'm trying to get them in the right direction of the structure that I see. Again, finding a lot of the structural lines and diagonals. And then once I've got this mess of lines, then I'm using a pen just to highlight the more obvious lines, the more longer line, structural lines, with the sort of broad pen that I have. And now I'm going to use the same pen just to block in some of the darker areas, the areas that are obviously darker. And using the fact that I've got all these small little pencil lines, then I can decide yet again if the line's going to be black or if they're going to be white, and therefore I need to do black either side. So I'm going to try and keep as many lines in as possible, but I'm getting rid of the lines and making them into tone. So again, jumping along a little bit because it's just filling in shapes. You need to break the shapes into smaller and smaller shapes, and then really decide which bits are dark and which bits are light. Which bits need to look like they follow through and continuous lines, and which bits can just be indicated broken lines. So I'm not really doing a drawing, I'm not doing a drawing which you, as an architect, you would be able to make the Eiffel Tower from it, but it's an indication of some of the details, an indication of some of the structure. So it's really up to you to make a decision about which bits of lines or which bits of shapes need to be dominant and which bits of lines or shapes you can just indicate. So again and again, lots and lots of little shapes, and just working out how the cross structure of the Eiffel Tower holds the whole thing up so that it works with the drawing. So at this stage from now on, I've got maybe over half the drawing done, so everything else that I do from this stage needs to work with what I've already got. So I want it to be an accurate drawing, but I also want it to fit the pen work that I've already done. So I'm trying to get it so that the light areas are where they need to be and the dark areas are where they need to be. And I find it quite useful because it's a nice stage of the drawing for me, I think, because the whole sense of the drawing is I can move my pen work and go to any area that I feel I need to at any stage. So I'm not sort of doing it methodically bit by bit. I can jump around, and as soon as I notice something, I just find a medium or broad or narrow pen and fill in that one area, and then hopefully by doing that one area, that will help me decide what the next area is. So each time I do a thing, then I work out what the next thing is, rather than having a really set plan. So at the very beginning of this drawing, it was quite planned out about drawing the basic shapes and the basic structure, and then the middle sort of third of the Eiffel Tower I did that tell. But now in this lower part of the Eiffel Tower, the bigger part of the drawing, I've given myself quite a lot of freedom to experiment with structure so that it feels busy, so that it feels right, and so that I can just intuitively draw where I want to at any stage and just jump the pen around. So jumping the video up a little bit just to speed along, because this video is going to take, 15-20 minutes, but the actual drawing took about 2 hours. So that's a bit too long to make a video of that, but hopefully with this video you can see the structure of the organization of the drawing and that in your own drawing. So this bit up here I've decided to use a biro because it's a smaller, thinner line that I need right at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and it's always a bit of a thing towards the end of a drawing. You don't want to get it wrong after you've invested that much sort of effort to get it right, but just take a risk and go for it and try and do lines confidently. And there we are. So I hope you find this drawing very useful for your own drawing, and I hope you like it and give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Circle Line Art School, for many, many more art videos. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. There are many ways to draw an image like the Eiffel Tower. This is just one. I have another video on YouTube that shows you a simpler way to draw the Eiffel Tower just from the side view, just starting with a triangle and splitting it up into smaller and smaller shapes to get quite an illusion of a detailed thing, but it's much more simple drawing. If you'd like to follow that drawing, please follow the link below on this video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.